Hello, OCG community, and welcome back to yet another episode of Overcoming Graduation with Brian Drury. Now, my brother finally helped me figure out a way to abbreviate the name without calling you all OGs, and I think OCG has a nice ring to it. So the OCG community is going to be everyone and anyone who's listening in on this podcast who shares a passion for this message and wants to get this message out to the world. So thank you all for joining me again tonight, and my interview tonight is with Cindy DeChamp. Now, her story is one of the hardest, most challenging that I think I've ever heard in my life, and definitely one of the hardest ones that I've heard through my interviews so far. You'll hear in tonight's interview Cindy's story and how she has battled through a car accident that nearly ended her life before her high school graduation, how she contracted two of the most deadly illnesses that we are facing in the world today, and how she has battled and beaten them both. You'll hear about how she got pregnant by a boyfriend who did not truly love her, who kicked her out of the house, and how she ended up finding love in spite of all of that challenge. You'll hear so much more about her career, of how she found that dance was her passion in the world, and she competed in dance and traveled all over trying every style with a particular emphasis on Latin dance. Then how she went on to work at a ranch for troubled youth, so young men who had had issues in their life come from gang backgrounds, to help them reform and see the beauty and joy that was in life. You'll hear about her struggles with drug addiction and how she took drugs. She knew about the challenges that came in overcoming taking them. She knew about the pull, but she also turned her life around to see how much more beautiful life was without drugs and how much more beautiful life is. She used that knowledge to help so many more people. Now she is an entrepreneur, owns her own personal coaching business, and helps people to live like so many of these coaches, to live more genuinely, more fully, to be more themselves, to see through all the nonsense and see the beauty that life has to offer. She also works as a spiritual medium, which I know many of you might think and initially go, well, that's nonsense. That's just a scam or a hoax or a joke. But when you listen to the interview today, this is the first time I've ever spoken with someone who is actually a medium. And when you hear her description, I think you might have a very different perspective on what being a medium really is in this life. So tonight's interview is really exciting. It's very unique. It has a lot of ups and downs, so be ready, because it is an emotionally challenging interview. But I really give Cindy so much credit for being so authentic and telling the story in a way that finds the joy in every moment. You'll also come to see how, through all these struggles, Cindy is one of the happiest, brightest, most bubbly people I've ever met in my life, in spite of all the challenges. And that's just a message that if she can do it, you can do it too. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring you to Cindy DeChamp. As always, you can find more information on Cindy's website, how to contact Cindy, and so much more at overcominggraduation.com. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or you just want to tell me what you loved about today's episode, please email me at brian@overcominggraduation.com. Thank you all for listening. I love you guys. Let's get tonight's show started. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Overcoming Graduation. My guest tonight is Cindy DeChamp, and normally at this point I would do a little bit of an introduction, but what I found in my past episodes, someone pointed out to me, is I would do the introduction now. I'd record my intro that I put at the front later, and then people would end up getting a double introduction. So rather than do that, Cindy and I are just going to get started tonight, and I'll record my other intro later, which tells you about all the wonderful goodies you'll get in the show. So Cindy, thank you for being back on the show.
No problem, my pleasure.
So Cindy and I actually did an interview prior to this, and unfortunately I had scheduled another interview after it, a little too close to the timing, and I ended up kind of trying to rush to get all the messages in there. And Cindy has such a great story, I didn't want to rob you of any of the wonderful details. So Cindy, I appreciate it. I know it's we're going to be doing a lot of the same stuff, but like we were just talking about before the call, I think people grow and people change day to day, let alone in the past couple weeks and months we've been apart. And already, even before the show, we were sharing some stories. So I'm excited to go through this again, and I love your story, and I think there's so much for kids and adults to get from it. So I'm excited to hear it again.
Thank you, Brian.
So, I guess, as always, we'll start off. But since I know your story, I can do a little bit of jumping around here. So rather than just say we'll start from college graduation, I know your story and your journey to become the person you are today started a little bit before college graduation. In fact, it was right before high school graduation. Am I correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So can you give us that portion of the story to start us off, of the beginning of the challenges that helped you grow to be the person you are today?
Sure. My truest part of my journey began in my senior year of my high school career. It was almost the end of the year. It was February, where everybody at that point is getting ready for graduation, getting ready for prom even. The excitement of having a future to look forward to, having just a life ahead of you is exciting. And
oh my God, will she go to the dance with me? Oh my God, I gotta ask her.
I know. Is that not the reason we live in our senior year of high school?
That's the biggest concern in the world.
It feels like that is that prom invitation. But anyway, so it was February, and I was going to after school to get some of the credits that I had not quite gotten, so that I could graduate with my class. And I happened to get into a car accident. And it wasn't just a normal, simple fender bender. It was a pretty big deal. I ended up in the hospital, having to have my left kidney removed. Literally, when I got to the hospital, the doctor was like, "She should be dead."
Wow.
I lost more than half of my blood in that car accident, along with the left kidney. And in trying to save my life, they gave me a blood transfusion. Now, at that time, no big deal. I went on to, I didn't graduate with my class because I ended up being out of school for 2 months to heal from the surgery and the car accident.
Right.
And wasn't able to catch up on all of my credits. I did graduate high school later, but it wasn't with my class. Anyway, and at that same time, about a week or two after I guess it was 2 weeks after my car accident, my grandfather passed away, who was one of my heroes. He was one of my best friends, actually. And so I felt like at that time, one, the doctors are telling me I should be dead. Two, my grandfather passes away. And three, I'm being told I can't graduate with all of my friends.
You're at a time where most people's biggest concern, like we said, is prom and like, ooh, where am I going to go to college and all this? And suddenly you're being faced with mortality, both your own and your grandfather's. And we've talked about the serious things in my life and your life that have happened even recently. And all of a sudden these much bigger, much more serious questions are put in front of you at a time where you don't feel like you should have them yet,
Right. Oh, definitely. I mean, who at 17, I was 17 at the time, who at 17 years old thinks that they should be facing mortality of anybody?
Right.
I mean, mortality is the last thing on your mind at that age. I honestly remember back then thinking that I was untouchable.
Yep.
That nothing in the world could ever hurt me. And I think we all at that age live in that little glass bubble that our parents create for us, of that safety and that knowledge that there's always a home to go to. There's always, these wonderful things that are just automatically there that we don't have to really work for or even think about.
Right.
And so I was in that little heaven of high school. And heaven changed, the look of heaven changed very, very drastically, very quickly. So, needless to say, I did finally get my diploma the December after I was supposed to graduate with my friends.
And Cindy, how long was the recovery process from the car accident?
It was 2 months. I was able to go back to school for half days at the end of the school year.
Okay.
So I didn't even get to go back full school days before before what would have been graduation.
Okay.
So it really, I mean, as far as, to me at that time, it was a lifetime. It was never ending.
Right.
But I was in the hospital for a week and a half, and then I was at home full time for another almost 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was able to go to school part days.
Okay.
After that, so it was a really long recovery. You get, exploratory surgery is what they ended up having to do with me, and that's a cut down all the way down the front of you, and you are open to the world. I've always said
Not
the
the way
doctors
you
know
want to
the
be.
inside and out better than I do, but
So
they've had the opportunity to touch and feel everything.
And so, all right, so you get to that point, and you finally do graduate high school, and then what happens?
I graduated high school and was just trying to kind of get my life back in order and figure out, okay, what am I going to do with myself? Mm-hmm. And found an ad in a newspaper about a dance studio looking for employees, and I've always loved music, and I've always loved dancing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this could be perfect for me. And of course, I was not huge at school, as you can tell by, the fact that I had to go to after-school school in high school. So I wasn't huge on the idea of going to college. Mm-hmm. I just didn't think that was for me. And so I saw this ad in the newspaper and thought, oh my gosh, this could be my in mm-hmm. to a real life that has nothing to do with school.
And Cindy, like, to that point, I just want to pause for the listeners. That type of passion or that type of guidance, that intuition, is so important to listen to. If anything, from the people that have been on the show, from people like Cindy, you have to be able to see that these things are real professions, real careers that can bring you so much more joy than just following the standard mentality. Sometimes college isn't the right step. Sometimes if it doesn't feel right and it's not what you believe in your heart, it doesn't matter what other people are telling you, because most people, all they know is the standard method. So, like Cindy, she said, you know what? School's really not for me, but I love to dance. In fact, when I first met Cindy, one of the things she said is, I'm a dancer, and I love to dance. And I saw her dance on multiple occasions. I think we even danced a little bit together. But just for I wanted to just pause for the listeners for a second and say, that type of feeling, if you're right about to graduate college, one, it's totally normal. I would say just about everybody has it, but two, listen to it. And even if you end up starting, like me, you graduated with $80,000 in student loans, and you want to find a way to pay, you can still do this thing on the side. You can dance on the side, you can write, you can do music, you can grow it into a business while still having a certain source of income, or you can dive in full out. There's no set way. So Cindy, okay, my little rant there. Now you've signed up for the dance school.
Yes, so I go down to the dance studio and apply, get into their training. They do have to train you this was a Fred Astaire dance studio, so it was ballroom, partnership dancing, the stuff you see on Dancing with the Stars. It's real. I'm telling you, because I used to do it.
I was going to say, I didn't know who Fred Astaire was, so I'm glad you clarified.
Oh, are you kidding me? Oh, Brian, you and I have to have he was my hero back in the day.
I'm in trouble.
Anyways, so I got hired, started the training. I'm in training. This had to have been in September, a year and a half after school, after the car accident. Mm-hmm. And I get a phone call, and they're at the studio, and I get this phone call from the doctor's office that had done the surgery, mm-hmm. from the doctors that had done the surgery from the car accident. Mm-hmm. And they tell me, and I, for some reason, I really remember these specific conversations as if they happened 5 seconds ago. Wow. And they tell me they're doing back testing on all blood transfusions, and that my number 7 blood donor from the car accident had AIDS. Wow. And so they needed for me to come in and be tested. And, once again, I guess even after that year and a half, I had survived this huge car accident that was supposed to kill me. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that in my mind, I had even gone back to that mentality of I'm invincible.
Right.
Nothing can touch me.
And Cindy, how much blood did they have to transfuse? Like how much did you get?
I had 11 donors,
Wow.
and that was all that they did was give me half of the amount of blood that I had lost.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So and they do that so that your body has to rebuild.
Right. Yeah, your body regenerates. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean they had to give me enough to keep me alive.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't want to give me so much that my body wouldn't do its job as well.
Right. Okay. So.
And so in essence, they had to retrain my body to build what it needed to do.
Right. Okay.
So I had 11 donors. My number 7, I'm being now told that my number 7 blood donor has AIDS.
Wow.
Now, mind you, let's for just a moment look at the fact that I'm 18 years old at this point.
Mm-hmm.
This is in 1986.
Mm-hmm.
And the only vision anybody had of AIDS at that point were men
Mm-hmm.
dying with their faces sunken in, their cheeks all encaved, their bones showing through their skin because they had lost so much weight, sores all over them.
Mm-hmm.
So AIDS was a very scary thing.
A really terrifying image, yeah.
It was like freaking terrifying to anybody.
Oh, and Cindy, the point that you told me that blew my mind about the governmental testing, can you share that with the listeners?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so going back to the car accident, I had the car accident on February 25th of 1985.
Mm-hmm.
On I think it was April 1st, it may have been April 15th, I don't know, somewhere in there. That's when the government actually started testing blood for AIDS.
Yeah, see that?
Legally. I mean, putting it out there and telling everybody that they were doing it.
Yeah.
So had I gotten in the car accident in April instead of February, I would never have gotten that phone call.
Yep.
When I was 18.
Mm-hmm. And like so many things, it's the why me, why this, and I mean we know there's strength that comes through your challenges and there's good, but I mean sometimes when things happen at first, you're not going, oh well, where's the silver lining?
Yeah. No, at the time, even when I got that phone call saying that they needed to back test or that they needed me to come in for the test, I honestly, well, one, I don't think at that moment even the realization that it could be true had hit me yet.
Okay.
And it was 2 weeks later. Now, this is a fun part of the story too. I get a call 2 weeks after the first phone call. I'm at home at this point getting ready because it's my 19th birthday.
Oh,
okay, so this is the morning of my 19th birthday. All of my friends were coming over that night. We had a live band set up.
Wow.
Not proud of this thing, but we had all the drugs and all the alcohol we could think of. Ready for this big party. Just so y'all know, don't do drugs. They don't work. Or drinking for that matter.
A public service announcement from Cindy Champ. A little bit of beer in moderation. A little bit.
Okay, yeah, that's a little bit of here and there. Yeah. A glass of wine doesn't hurt.
There you go. See?
Anyway, so I'm at home getting ready for this huge blowout of a birthday party. It's my 19th. It's the biggest one I've ever had. It's the only one I've already, gotten to have for myself. And the doctors call me up. Now, love doctors, don't get me wrong, but these doctors didn't call me in and say, we need to see you. They called me up on the phone, and their exact words to me were, you have tested positive for AIDS. You have 2 years to live. Get your life in order.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, especially like with, losing my mom to cancer recently, there were some doctors who have incredible bedside manner and who can deliver the worst news in the world in a way that it doesn't make it better, but softens this thing. And then there's other doctors that you want to slap upside the head and be like, how the hell could you deliver that to a person in this state? So they say to you, you have AIDS, you get your life in order, and what happens next?
Well, I decided getting my life in order meant getting all the drugs and alcohol that we had for the party and taking it to my bedroom and overdosing on everything, thinking that I was not going. I mean, literally the one thought that went through my mind in that moment was, I will not allow my family to watch me die this way. Mm-hmm. I will not do that to the people that I love. Mm-hmm. And so the only thought was, I have everything I need right here to kill myself. And I honestly went to my room and tried. I locked myself into my room. No one had any idea where I was for my birthday party that I didn't show up to. Mm-hmm. Because I had nothing to celebrate at that point in my mind. And I locked myself away and with all the drugs and all the alcohol and sat in there for a week.
Wow.
And that's all I ingested was what drugs and alcohol I could take in at any given moment.
The Keith Richards diet.
Now, how I survived that, I don't know. I honestly don't, because once again, anyone else going through that would have killed themselves, would have been dead by the end of the week.
Well, I've told you, Cindy, you're a badass. That's why.
I
said you were on the Keith Richards diet, and you just said, no big deal, I'm fine. But
I figure I'm okay. I'm a little bit better than Marilyn Monroe.
But
drugs, heck.
But to you.
No, I mean it was a week later. A friend of mine literally broke my bedroom window, crawled into my bedroom, moved the dresser, grabbed me out of my bed, and he was not doing this gently by any stretch of the imagination. Grabbed me out of my bed. I don't even think he felt for a pulse. I think he just knew I was still alive. I don't know how. Took me into my bathroom, threw me into the bathtub, and turned on the cold water, and he says, I don't know what the hell's going on, but you are not dying this way. And mind you, at that point, nobody else knew about the news that I had gotten on the phone the morning of my birthday.
So not even your family, just you were the only one?
Nobody.
Wow. Oh, so no one had
I was the only one that knew what the phone call was about.
Wow.
And but him doing that, really, that was a wake-up moment for me. Mm-hmm. It was that moment of, am I really going to prove them right?
Yeah.
Or am I going to live? Wow. And it was at that moment that I decided living had to be somehow a better journey than dying in a bed.
And already, doctors of life had told you twice already. So through the car accident, through the drug overdose, you should have been dead, but you were still here. So in most people's minds, I mean, in that state, and something I wanted to call out to the listeners, like you said, your thought of, I'm going to try and kill myself, wasn't out of a selfish, I can't take this anymore. It was about the people you loved. And so I know it's easy to judge me, like, oh, how could someone consider that? How could someone even think of that? Like when we see these shows, these things on TV, a lot of times the people think that they're doing people a favor. You know, they think that they're saving people from some kind of pain. And I can tell you from personal experience, watching someone you know and love suffer is one of, if not the worst things in the world. But I can tell you, like from my experience losing my mom, the time that we had with her, the moments were so special. The things that we got to, you learn to value the littlest things so much more. You're more present in the moment. So, and she held on for us, you know, like she was like, hey, she's like, I'm going up to see God and I'm excited to do it, but I'm going to stay with my family as long as I can. And so, you know, for you, you have 2 times already in your life where the doctors or society said you should be dead, and you're like, you know what, I'm still here. And I believe there was an ex-boyfriend, correct? The guy who brought you out of your room. Well, good for him. I'm proud of him, and because he kept your awesome self around, which is great. And so he gets you out, and now you're again faced with this. Okay, what next in life? So what was the next step?
Right. So I actually, mind you, I had disappeared even from the job I was training for without telling anybody what was going on. So I had disappeared from my life. My future, I had put it like it didn't exist. I put my dance career, didn't call and tell anyone that I wasn't going to show up for training for a week or anything, So I decided, you know what, I'm going to go down there and at least talk to them, explain to them what happened, and see if they will accept me back into the training class. And went down, and thank God for the people that God has put in my path every step of the way, because the lady that was doing my training class, her name was Bev, and to this day I'll always think of her as my big sister. I went into her, and she was actually the first person I told about the AIDS. And I didn't know her other than, a couple of weeks in training. That's all I knew her. And so I asked her if I could speak to her. She took me into her office. I told her what had happened. She came around her desk to my side of the desk, sat down in the chair next to me, put me in her lap like I was a child, and rocked me.
Wow.
And just, put her hand on my hair and just, petted me, I guess, for lack of a better word, calming me down, giving me love and acceptance. And I think at that point, that was the one thing I honestly felt like if I told anyone, I would never, ever be able to feel that feeling again of being accepted by anyone.
Wow.
And she gave me that. In that moment, she gave me absolute acceptance. No judgment, no nothing. She gave me love and she gave me acceptance.
And you said, how long had you known her?
I had known her for maybe 2 months.
Wow.
At this point.
And I mean, that just goes to show this is something I tell people a lot, is when you open yourself up to experience and you pay attention to the people around you, you open yourself up for connection. And I've been very fortunate. I've been able to travel a lot. I've gotten to see a lot of things, but I'm also very extroverted, so I love to meet people. And I found, you and I both, that.
Yeah.
But we gravitated towards each other right away. But
immediately.
But the thing is, I've connected more with some people that I met for one day than certain people I knew my whole life growing up. And people tend to think, well, it can't be real or genuine or deep connection without time. Like so many of these things, like the negative, like the really challenging things, the questions of mortality, all these different things, life doesn't necessarily happen in a way that time is the only indicator of depth of emotion, of depth of connection. So don't be afraid to connect, even with a complete stranger, because you might be the person that does for Cindy what her dance teacher did. Because I've had strangers that I've talked to that were crying, that needed someone to talk to. And sometimes it just starts with a question on a plane or sitting on a bench. It's amazing, but that's what we're really here to do, is connect with people. And I mean, Cindy, how much of a difference in your life did that one moment make for you from that one person caring?
Oh my gosh, it was literally, it was life altering. Because without that connection in that moment, I probably would have gone home and tried to commit suicide again.
Wow. Wow.
Her acceptance and her love of me gave me that reason to take the next step forward.
Wow.
Because it gave me hope. It gave me that ability to see beyond the yesterday and to see into the tomorrow.
Wow.
And without that vision at that moment, I don't know if I wouldn't have turned around and just gone back to my bedroom all over again.
And how long was it? How long was it before you told your parents? Just out of curiosity.
It was the weekend after talking to Bev. So it was. I think I went back into work. It was a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and then I went home to visit my parents that Saturday. And we lived in the same town. I just didn't visit them very often, and I knew that was something that I needed to tell them in person.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be as great as the doctors were and tell them over the phone. But anyway, so yeah, I went to my parents' house that Saturday and sat down with them, and we talked about it. And no, by that time, I knew that Bev had accepted me into the dance class again, and was giving me the opportunity to finish my training. And so I felt like I had a future to look forward to at that point. And so that gave me like some of the strength to go tell my parents.
Wow.
That I felt I wouldn't have had otherwise. I don't know that I would have had the wherewithal to go and sit down in front of my parents and say, okay, I'm being told I'm dying.
Yeah.
You know, how do you tell your parent that? Anyway. So I think that really Bev was a huge, and I don't know that she ever understood how important she was in my life. But yeah, she was a huge part of the turning of me being able to tell other people and be open and honest about it.
Yeah, and that, to what you just said, that brings up two really big things for me, like that. Because I love these stories because there's so many messages, and you know, when I'm doing the interviews, I try to call out what I've come to learn or come to understand, but I know even the listeners are getting their own excellent messages, their own kind of light bulbs from this. But so something that you called out just there about how her giving you the hope or the vision of something in the future is what gave you the strength to kind of move on and to come forward to tell your parents. A lot of times, one of the biggest fears that kids just graduating college and going into the real world, not even facing these serious, deep questions, one of their biggest things is the fear of what is my life about, or what is it meant to be, or what is the vision or the purpose, or why am I here? And sometimes we spend so much time worrying about that question that we don't look at the really obvious things in front of us that we love, that our passion and our intuition is trying to tell us to do. So that for you was dance, and for you dance was right there.
Right.
And I had another point and I lost it, so we'll just keep going. So you have dance and you're going and you're back.
And I'm sure you will come back to it, Brian.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure.
Oh, you know me.
Anyway, so that was telling my parents, and of course my parents had been split up for a lot of years, so I had to also tell my biological mother, my real mom, and that I unfortunately had to do over the phone because she lived further away, and so I got up the courage to tell her, and I think that was probably the hardest thing on me, because to tell the mother that gave birth to you, that this horrible thing was happening in your life. I can't even imagine that kind of pain. I can't imagine one of my children calling me up and going, "Hey, Ma, guess what? I'm dying." Yeah. And finding a way to be okay with it. I don't know. Yeah. But anyways, so
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you, but
it's okay.
That reminded me of the other point. The second point.
There you go.
See, there it is. It's my tangents they always come full circle. But it was you had said she'll never know the impact that she had on my life. To me, so there's this video online. I'll attach it to the podcast that talks about the fastest ways to boost happiness, and they actually did. There's this thing called Science of Happiness on YouTube, and it's really wonderful, feel-good videos. So if you ever need a smile, go watch them. But this talks about the fastest way to improve your happiness is to express gratitude to someone else. So they do this experiment where they bring people in, they have them write a letter to the most important person in the world, in their world, about why they are, and then they tell them, okay, now you're going to call them and read them this letter. So so often, yeah, oh, it's beautiful. I mean, there's tears, there's laughs, there's like somebody woke up a friend in the UK. It was like 3 a.m. She was like, oh, well, what's wrong? She goes, no, I just wanted to call and tell you I love you. And like, but just to that point, we forget, and we get so caught up in what we don't have. We get so caught up in my job, this, and I'm tired, and this and that. We stop looking at all the amazing blessings that surround us every single day. And I'm just as good. I'm not saying that like, oh, I figured it out and I see all the sunshine and rainbows. Like you and I were talking before this call. I said this week I was just off. I've been tired. I've been lazy. I've just been off. And I'm looking at the things I don't. But I've also had these times and these moments in my life where I've been able, through the personal development stuff, through reading, through listening to TED Talks, you shift your perspective. For everybody listening, when my mom got diagnosed with cancer, when I got that call, I'll never forget that day. I cannot tell you how many times I told my mom, my dad, my brother, I love them. We did all the time, but even more, and I said it with feeling. And then I started saying it to my friends. And if you tried to say I love you to one of your, like I'm a guy, I said it to my guy friends, most guys would be like, whoa, bro, chill. But because they knew what was going on, they got past that and said, I love you too, man. And it was just about, I love you, you're my friend, you're here for me. And so don't be afraid to do it. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing worse than not being able to do it again. And I still talk to my mom, but I want to be able to do it the way that I used to. And so don't ever lose sight of that. Don't ever forget about the importance of sharing that love with people, because it not only helps that person, that might be the boost they need that day, it makes you feel happy and it reminds you of all the light in your life. So that was the point, Cindy. I got it back. So all right, so now you're back into the dance school and you've got this new vision for your life. You've told your parents, which was a really difficult thing to do. And so what comes next in the story?
Well, I live my life. To give you the cheery side of everything, I stopped drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I decided if I was going to die, I wasn't going to do it to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I decided that I was going to live my life, whatever it looked like, and for however long, I was going to live every day.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to live, and I was going to dance through my life, and I was going to have a great time, and I was going to touch as many people as possible, not necessarily with my story.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like my journey at that point was to touch people with my knowledge of dance and teaching others how to love music and movement as much as I did. And so, I mean, I went a lot of years without telling anybody, except for those that were closest to me, that I had HIV.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do anything about getting it taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because when I first tried to get help, nobody knew what to do with a female with HIV.
Wow.
Once again, that time frame, it was a gay man's disease.
Right.
And so a straight female walking into a doctor's office, and they're just like, I don't know what to do with you. So I was sent from one place to another place to another place, and I finally just got so tired of being sent somewhere else that I just decided to ignore that part of who I was and pretend it didn't exist.
Wow.
Which in a way was great for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because it allowed me, in the back of my mind, I knew it was there, but I lived as if I had the rest of eternity to keep living.
Wow, that is powerful. That is powerful stuff, Cindy. I love that.
Yeah, and so it's like, I mean, how many times have I now been told I'm supposed to be dead, and I'm still here? I passed the mark, and with flying colors, like, it was a breeze.
The 2-year mark, you mean? The 2-year mark that they gave you? You said you passed by with flying colors?
Yeah, I actually went back to the doctors to kind of put it in their noses that I was still alive,
Thanks for
and
the
they
phone
had
call.
both passed away. So,
So
not funny, but really, really funny. Now I can tell doctors, if you're going to give me a time frame, better watch out because it might be your own. But anyway, so so I passed that 2-year mark. I was living in California. I was dancing nonstop. I was on the competitive ring. I was, had my own dance studio. I was living my life. I was having a blast. Meeting people from all walks of life, getting to travel. I mean, I was really having fun. And
what? Out of curiosity, what styles of dance did you compete in?
Oh my gosh, mainly Latin. That was my favorite.
Really? Okay.
I love anything Latin. But I would compete in the strict ballroom, like waltz and foxtrot and quick step as well. But I love my forte, my favorite form of dancing is anything Latin, cha-cha, samba, tango.
Do you do salsa also?
Oh yeah, gotta get some salsa in there. Cha-cha, rumba,
Yeah, I just published
anything with a
what's
good
that?
solid Latin beat, and I'm moving to this day.
Just published the interview with Jordana Ayer just on Wednesday, and we had the same. I remember us talking about this at the conference. She competed in semi-professional salsa dancing, and I was like, "You got to teach me." And she's like, "Next time you're out in San Diego, we're going out." So next time I see you, you gotta help me pick that up. I actually
darn right. No, salsa is so much fun. All Latin is fun. I don't think I can pick one specific dance that I like the most, but because they all have their own personality, so I love each one of them for who they are, Anyway, so I went on living my life, and my dance studio ended up closing because the recession hit in California, and I ended up losing my dance studio, and so financially I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And ended up moving to Laughlin, Nevada, and being a blackjack dealer there for almost a year. Had a blast doing that. Once again, meeting a lot of people from all over the world. I mean, you go to any casino town and think about where the people come from. They come from everywhere. And so that was right up my alley as well. Just meeting people from all different walks of life. And just connecting with other human beings is, I think, what my true forte is. It doesn't matter if it's through dance or anything else, but
I can verify that. Yeah.
So did that for a while, and ended up getting pregnant by a boyfriend, and he lovingly and whatever kicked me out of his house.
Oh my God.
When I was pregnant with our daughter, and so I moved in with my biological mother in Mesa, Arizona, and she took me in open arms, wonderful, and that is when I met my husband, and of course he wasn't my husband then, but I was pregnant with my daughter. I was really honestly at that point thought I was going to be raising my daughter on my own. No one else was going to take in a woman that was pregnant and HIV positive. Who in the world would do that? That's just stupid. So I'd gotten to that point of, okay, I'm going to do the rest of this life thing by myself.
Right.
I'm going to do this with me and my kid. We're gonna make this work. And met my husband, and on our first date I told him I'm pregnant and I'm HIV positive. And by our second date, he had decided that somehow we were meant to be together.
Wow.
And needless to say, we got married 3 months after my daughter was born, and he's been her mother, and we've had one more child since then. And moving forward, because this is a whole lifetime we're going over here. This is 30 years worth of stuff. Anyway, so then, everything's moving along pretty well. I'm living life. I'm working. I'm, doing my thing, just, being a mom.
Oh, and Cindy, because I think I know where we're going next. And just a quick pause, because that's a great lesson for the listener. Okay, because listen, I'm 25, and I can't tell you how many guys and girls, mainly the girls, but guys and girls are freaking out about getting married, about finding the love of their life. Oh my God, I haven't found them yet. I'm 22. Why not? It's like, because you're 22. There's no set time frame. There is no guarantee. There's no rule book. There's no rule book that says you got to graduate college, you have to get a 9 to 5, you have to do this, you have to get the White House picket fence, there are no rules. So for everyone out there who is worried, who is terrified, what my mom always said to me, my mom and dad both, but my mom would really, because I've had good and bad and some pretty bad relationships, and my mom would always say to me, there were times you're like, why can't I just meet girls? Or you're single, right? And you're like, why can't I just meet another girl? Why can't I? Where are they? I'm doing everything. It's like, yeah. And my mom was like, when was the last time you did something you loved? And I would say, well, it's been a while. And she goes, Brian, if you want to meet a girl who shares your interests, go do the things that you love. And then what ends up happening, what's kind of a side effect of that I never realized until I actually started applying these things in my life, which came after graduation, was that you learn more about who you are, and you become more secure in what it is you want and what you don't want in life. So when you're able to say yes, hell yes to the things you love and no to the things you don't, that was a quote I saw recently. In life, it's either a hell yes or a no. It's really a great one. When you're able to say hell yes, all of a sudden you discover who you are, and when you start doing those things, you'll meet the people that align with what you are. And so Cindy's a perfect example. She said, no one's going to do that. That's stupid. I'm HIV positive. I'm pregnant. And this guy just knew. And they've been happily married ever since. And I've seen Cindy talk about her husband before, and she glows when she talks about him. So it's the type of love that is real, that the smile that I see is real. And you feel it in your heart when a person says, I love him and he's the one for me. So don't be afraid of love. Don't plan it. Don't try and set it up. Just meet people. Just go out and live your life. And the right person's out there. It just may take time. Stop believing all these there's a 50% divorce rate, or it's over 50%. That doesn't mean that people aren't still falling in love every day. All right, Cindy. Exactly. I love it. I love it because there's so much fear. Like, people have fear about dating, about this, about that, and I'm like I said, I feel it too. That's why I know these thoughts. But when I hear people talking, they're like, I'm 25. I'm not married. What am I gonna do? What is this? What's that? And it's like, maybe God or whatever you believe in is telling you that you're meant to be living something else, or maybe you're meant to be meeting someone else, maybe you're meant to be starting something, maybe this time in your life is meant for something else. That's why you haven't met that person yet. Maybe, the whole you're not ready, well, maybe you're not ready because you're supposed to be doing something awesome. Maybe she's over in Spain and you need to get your butt over there. So
exactly.
So like you said, you're going through life, you're living your life, you've had your first child and your second child, and so then the next step in the story.
Okay, next step in the story. My kids, by the way, I will brag about them. They are freaking awesome. And I'm not saying that just because they're my kids. I'm saying that because they're really awesome human beings. Mm-hmm. And I was really blessed with that they are who they are. Anyway, so my daughter's graduated high school. My son is in his senior year. Mind you, throughout this time, the HIV had gone from HIV to full-blown AIDS, back to HIV, back to full-blown AIDS, back to HIV. And I had been HIV positive only for about 12 years. Mm-hmm. And had kind of gotten, I guess, nonchalant about it again, for lack of a better word, and just kind of expected it to stay the way it was for the rest of eternity. And it was May of the year before my son's senior year that I started losing sight in my right eye, and went to the doctor, had it checked out. They ended up deciding that it was caused by AIDS and that they thought I was going to be going blind. Probably in both eyes at that point, but they knew for sure the right eye was losing sight.
Wow.
And so that was kind of scary. The HIV had turned into full-blown AIDS again. I had been going in and out of the hospital. I was working full-time at a boys' ranch for troubled teenage boys at that time. So you're talking about a bunch of boys that are raised in gangs, are already drug addicted. Most of them are alcoholics. And this is who I'm living with half of my week, every week.
And you were doing like...
So when I started losing the sight in the right eye, the doctors kept telling me, you're putting yourself, you're putting your coworkers, and you're putting the boys that you work with at risk, because if something were to happen and one of those boys were to come up on your right side, you wouldn't be able to protect anyone else because you wouldn't know it was happening until after it started.
Wow.
So that went on for about 4 or 5 months, where I kind of just kept thinking that the doctors weren't being truthful. Even though I knew that what they were telling me was true, I didn't want to really believe it. So in August of that year, my infectious diseases doctor, the one that was in control of the HIV and AIDS, said that it was time for me to make a change, that I needed to quit working. If I wanted to continue living life, I had to stop working. The stress that the job was putting me under was too much for my body to keep fighting.
And Cindy, were you doing, was it counseling, or like what was the actual work at this boys' ranch?
I was what they would consider, the job title was a coach counselor. We were like life coaches, teaching the boys how to make different decisions than the ones they had made before coming to stay with us. And then we also made sure that they learned about how to take proper care of their bodies. We were doing physical activity with them every day. We were teaching them nutrition. So we were doing that end of it, but we were also doing a lot of the life coaching, retraining our cognitive behavior, our thinking skills of, okay, normally I would go up to you and kick your ass just because you looked at me funny. What other options do I have?
Yeah, okay.
Because there are other options.
Really?
There really are. But these boys had just never been taught that there were other choices that they could make. Literally, most of their families were already in gangs, and so they just grew up in gangs.
Right.
And that's all they knew. And so, I really felt for a long time while I was there, I felt like that was my calling in life, was to help these boys learn that there was a different way. Having been drug addicted myself, I totally understood the pull that drugs have on us. But I also know what life looks like without them.
Wow.
And that without drugs, life is a whole lot more exciting. And it's so much more worth living when you don't have the stuff that's altering your reality. Life is just a lot more beautiful from the side of sobriety and cleanliness. Yeah. And I wanted the boys to learn that. I wanted them desperately to learn that there is life outside of drugs and outside of gangs and outside of anger and hatred. And so I thought that was my calling. I thought that that's what I was supposed to do. And I believe that for that time, that was what I was supposed to be doing. I honestly believe that for that period of time, there were specific boys that I needed to touch and to teach. And that they were supposed to teach me, because they did. Believe me, they did a lot of teaching.
Well, and I mean, your calling can change. Your calling is,
yes.
I think your calling, like you said, is an idea or a concept. It's not a specific way of doing one thing, because you're never limited to one way of doing it. So you said your calling at that time was to help those boys, but to me, your calling in life was the coaching. It was the transformational efforts
Right.
to help people. Because like you said, coming out of addiction or coming out of the drug-induced haze, all of a sudden you understand that your reality can be shaped and molded in your own way, and you can change your perspective and then take steps to live the life you want to. And you had seen that through your dancing and through your travel. But so, okay, like you said, you know, life throws curveballs. I mean, you know, just probably better than anybody, life throws curveballs. So the
I love curveballs.
Yeah, you just crank them out of the park over and over.
Awesome.
So the doctor says you have to stop this job. So what came after that?
And so I went to my boys, my students at their boys ranch, and I told them, I'm leaving work in 1 month. I'm going to stop working. It's not because I don't love you. It's not because I don't want to stay, but it's because health-wise I have to do this for myself and for my family. And so I did that last month with them fully knowing who I was and what I was standing for and what I was all about. And I think that may have been one of the best lessons I could have taught them, was that putting yourself first isn't necessarily selfish.
Wow, yeah.
Had I not made that decision, I wouldn't be here today doing this interview. And I know that to be true. So putting myself first at that moment made it where I could give to 1 million more people.
Right.
And that is what my whole purpose is in life, is to be reaching out to others.
Yeah, and you could expand your reach, you could touch more lives. And I think, so my parents have always used the analogy, like when I'm pushing myself too hard, you know, my mom would always be like, all right, Brian, you need to take a break or whatever, but they would use the analogy of being on the airplane and the oxygen masks drop down. What do they always say?
Yep.
You got to put on your own mask first before you can help anybody else. Thing is, if you don't put on your own mask, you might pass out, and then people next to you do. And so it's such a critical piece that I think, I mean, I was just talking about earlier, I've been struggling with this like just this week, and I think it's so important because people think, oh, well, if I take time for myself, that's being selfish. In reality, a lot of times, you taking the time to be with yourself, to rest, to recover, to recuperate, allows you to be more present and allows you to be a better mother, a better friend, a better doctor, a better whatever it is. So to everyone listening, that time for you is so essential. It's so critical. And trust me, the people that you're giving to love and appreciate you, and they appreciate what you do, but they want you to be at your best and be happy and be able to enjoy the ride too. So, I mean, this is as much a reminder. I'm like saying what I need right now. I'm giving myself the lesson. But really, to everybody listening, it is so critical. And my mom, when she was in the hospital, she would force us to go home. And we realized that it wasn't selfish leaving her, because one, she was telling us to, but two, we couldn't be present for her if we were, just totally dead and tired. And I mean, still, there were times we stayed regardless of what she said, but as much, like, it is so critical to take that time to recover for yourself. So You've done this for the boys, and I think also something really critical that you did for them was you explained what was happening, whereas I'm guessing a lot of these boys had been left abandoned, had dealt with that type of just being, not even a goodbye and someone's out the door in their life, whoever that may have been. So by you saying, here is what I'm doing and here's who I am, and letting them know and being there to explain it, I think that absolutely touched their lives in a huge way as well.
Yes, I believe it did too, because I didn't want them to feel like I was just walking out the door and abandoning them, because that's what everyone else in their world has always done.
Right.
And I felt it was very, very important for them, more even than for myself, to tell them that this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm not walking away. You can find me on Facebook. I'm there, which I've always done for those boys. But anyway, so in September of 2013, I went to my last day of work and came home and knew that was like the new journey of what is Cindy's future going to look like, was taking effect. And I remember going to my doctor in October. So it was 2 weeks after I had quit working. And the doctor told me that my AIDS numbers were really bad. Wow. And when we look, just quick AIDS education, as quick as I can, we look at two different things when we're looking at how bad the disease is in our body. Mm-hmm. We look at the viral load, which is how much of the virus is in our system. Mm-hmm. And then we look at our CD4 count, which is our T cell count or our fighter cells. Okay. How many of those good blood cells we have working for us. Mm-hmm. I call them my soldier cells. They're my little soldiers. Anyway, so my viral load had gone up way higher than it probably ever had at that point. And my CD4 or my soldier cells had dropped drastically. So I really had walked away from work at the absolute perfect time mm-hmm. for my body. Because it was at that point that my fight was with the disease had to get really intense. Mm-hmm. So I'm going full throttle into this fight against AIDS. Again, but deciding that, it's okay, I'm going to really focus on this, and I'm going to focus on getting my son graduated from high school and all the positive things that a senior year has to offer him. I'm going for it. And once again, the word death or dying never entered the picture. That's something that I ain't going anywhere, everybody. You're stuck with me. So... So here we are, we're fighting. December comes along, and I go to the doctor again, and by this time I'm going every month to see if the medications are doing what they're supposed to do and if I'm fighting it at all. And the medications are working, but they're not doing the full fight, and I knew that was, part of the journey. Mm-hmm. And went in to see the doctor in December, got my flu shot, which is a must for those of us who have HIV or AIDS. Flu, pneumonia shot, you got to do them. And about a week after getting my flu shot, I am in my home, literally feeling like I'm dying. I have a fever, which I never run a fever. I hadn't run a fever in well over 20 years. Mm-hmm. That's one of the other things that an autoimmune system disease will do to you. It will cause you to never ever run a fever. But I was running a fever so badly that I was literally in my home with the heater turned up to like 85. Oh my God. Had 2 or 3 sets of sweatpants on, had 5 blankets on, and I was still shivering and shaking. Wow. And like my jaw, my teeth chattering. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't figure this out. I'm like, what the heck is this? I didn't even recognize it as a fever mm-hmm. because I hadn't had one in so long. So anyway, I called my husband. I'd gone through that for about 3 days. Okay, this is the stubborn part of Cindy coming out right there. I refuse to believe that I'm actually sick. So I do that for 3 days, and my husband's at work. It's a Friday morning. He's an EMT, emergency medical technician. And I call him up at work and I said, babe, I really think I'm dying. I can't get off the couch and move because I'm shaking so badly.
It's a relaxing phone call to get. Oh, babe, I think I'm dying. Could you come home? Jeez.
Yeah, it's like, by the way, and he, of course, was just getting called out to a real call. The exact same moment I was calling him, and so he couldn't, drop everything and come to me. He had to go and take care of an emergency call.
Oh, my God.
So he said, call a friend, get him to take you to the hospital. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I'll call the doctor first. He's like, good idea. And of course, he wasn't thinking fully either at that point, I don't think, because he was being called on an emergency call. Mm-hmm. And so I called my doctor, and I said, these are the symptoms I've gotten. He said, get to the hospital yesterday. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't joking. He was like, you should have been here 3 days ago. So I started calling friends. A friend was finally able to come and pick me up and take me to the hospital. I get into the emergency room, which my doctor had called ahead and let them know that I was coming. I get into the emergency room. They swoosh me into a room, probably the fastest entrance into an emergency room I've ever had. And they just start testing. They did a flu test, nothing. They're doing they do x-rays, they do CAT scans, they do every test known to man, and there's nothing wrong with me that they can find. Like, nothing wrong with me. So they decide to admit me. Now, mind you, this is on a Friday morning. So I'm in the hospital all, through the week, and finally, they did go in. They found a lymph node in the groin area that they felt was suspicious. And so they decided to do a biopsy on that, and that was on Monday. They went in and did, took the lymph node out and to do a biopsy on it. And Thursday, my doctor came in, so it was almost a week later. My doctor came into my hospital room and said, "Cindy, come sit down with me." So I went and sat down with him in the chairs in the room, and he says, "Well, we got the news." And I said, "Yeah, I know." And he says, "What do you know?" And I said, "I've got cancer." And he says, "How'd you know that?" And I said, "I just know."
Oh, God.
And he's like, "Yeah, you have cancer." And I said, "Okay, what do we do?" And mind you, he's my AIDS doctor. Okay, so he's sitting there. His thought pattern was so funny because he's like, "You're gonna keep taking the AIDS medication, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's doing its stuff for the AIDS. What are we gonna do about the cancer?"
And Cindy, what?
And I think it kind of like threw him for a loop because he expected me to be, I don't know, upset. I don't know.
Like most people would be.
Like, how am I supposed to react to this? I guess I'm just weird. And there was no reaction. Like, it was, okay, what do we do? What's the plan? And he's like, "Well, we don't have a plan. I'm going to hook you up with an oncologist. And I'm like, "Okay, let's get it going. Let's do what we got to do." And so anyway, I did make phone calls to everybody in my family. And mind you, I come from a family with 8 kids.
Oh my gosh.
So that's a lot of phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
And, parents and grandparents and, so I start making phone calls. I'm just being nonchalant about it. Like, "Oh, this is, I'm telling you I'm coming home from the hospital kind of news." Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I called my brother that's 2 years older than me. And that's when it kind of finally hit me. Mm-hmm. That, oh my God, I've got cancer.
And what kind, Cindy? Or what type of cancer did you have?
At that point, I didn't know, but it was about a week later that we found out I had stage 4B, which is the worst that you can get, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh my God.
And so lymphoma is, luckily, if you're going to get cancer, you'll want lymphoma. Okay? And if you can go out there and pick and choose, that's the one I'm told you want. See, that's why I wasn't upset about it.
Oh, Cindy.
I got the best kind.
I just love you. I just love the way you tell the story. I love it. Okay, keep going.
What can I say? Anyway, so the lymph nodes literally from my chin all the way down to my knees were filled with cancer.
Wow.
My liver and my colon were filled with cancer.
God.
Which I think for anybody would be really, really kind of frightening. Mm-hmm. And once again, it's one of those things that I look at and I'm like, okay, what do we do? What's the plan? And the oncologist, in his very loving way, told me, I don't know if we can fight this with the AIDS. Mm-hmm. The odds are really not in your favor.
Right.
But if you want to fight it, if you want to put in the fight, he says, I'll back you up. I will do everything I can. And I'm like, well, I don't give up on anything. I don't just quit. There's no such thing as quit in my vocabulary. Hasn't been since I was 19 years old, like,
Yeah.
I don't know that word. I don't know what it means. I said, so we fight it. We do what we have to do. And so we decided I had to do chemotherapy. And we had decided on 8 rounds of chemo, originally, was the original plan, with you have to do what they call PET scans,
Yep.
with a test at week 4, after the 4th session. And then we would decide from there if we needed to do more or less or whatever. And after the 3rd round of chemo, which was even a week before they were planning on doing any of the additional testing, my blood work came back so pretty, so well, so good. I don't even know what it was, but it was awesome. They said, you know what, let's do the PET scan anyway. Let's just see now what the PET scan shows. And so we went in for the PET scan, and after the third round of chemo, not only was I in remission from cancer, so cancer was gone. It was completely gone after 3 rounds of chemo. But in the same blood work week that the cancer was gone, they found out that the HIV was out of AIDS, and I was what they call undetectable, which is in essence in remission from HIV as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I just, oh my God. Yeah, keep going.
Anyway, so, we finished off, we ended up doing 6 rounds of chemo just to make sure all the cancer cells were gone and dead and not even tempted to come back. I don't like tempting fate, like, let's finish this off, please. And that I have been in remission since July, officially in remission since July of 2013.
That is so fantastic. I mean, I like.
Now, go ahead, Brian.
I was having just gone through this, and I'm still emotionally working through it. It's like, and just for the listeners, a PET scan is a type of scan that's done on cancer patients to determine if the cancer has spread, or determine kind of the where is it in your body at this point. And so it's a very tense, it's a very scary scan. But hearing these success stories, or like these, I beat it, I came through, it's one of those things that as my mom was going through it, we said, we know we're in a serious game right now. My mom had advanced stage pancreatic cancer, and we know we're in a serious game right now, but we're going to focus, like, every success story, every remission story, we celebrated. Even if it was a complete stranger, we read about it in the paper. It warms my heart to hear about it, and especially because I know more about your story that you're going to share. Just knowing you and seeing, just a quick pause for the listeners. If you listen to this story, I think, like when I first heard it, you're probably sitting there shaking your head and going, when is she going to get a break? Like, dear God, what else does she have to go through? And if you listen to Cindy telling this story, she's laughing and she's joking. She's finding joy and comedy in what I think just about no one in the world would call comedy. But I think that's part of what Cindy's blessing is in all of this, is that she has been through so much, and she has seen some real shit, and has still come through to say, life is still good, life is great, every day that you have is truly a gift. And I think there are many people who appreciate it as much as you. But if you get a chance to meet Cindy, you'll see she smiles, she laughs, she dances, she hugs. I think we hugged 32 times in the weekend that I knew her. And, at least. And big, warm, loving hugs. I mean, I needed them, so it was great. But, and I'm so glad, I'm just going to say it right now, I'm so glad we redid this interview, because there's pieces of the story that we didn't hit on the first time, because we were, I was like, oh, geez, we have to go. So I'm so glad we were redoing this. And so now, just for everybody, like there have been the bright moments, and now we get into what Cindy is doing now, what she is evolved into, and how she's helping people now. So Cindy, so I mean, you've heard the bright spots and the dancing and enjoying the lives with their children. So there's good and bad in all of this, but I mean, if you knew Cindy, you would never she would never play the victim card. She would never play the, oh, well, I had this or I have that. She, if anything, that's something on the back burner while she's busy living life to the fullest. So Cindy, so you have just gotten 2 confirmed in remission for 2 pretty badass diseases, and you just said, all right, sweet. So now, what was the next step?
Well, the next step for me was realizing that I still had a purpose, and that I hadn't reached my full potential yet. Now, mind you, I'm now at the point of being 47 years old. So this is the point in life where most people are winding down.
Yep.
And deciding life is supposed to be ending. You know, like, okay, now I'm supposed to be getting ready for retirement and whatever. And I decided to start my own business. Because I'm crazy like that. So I now have my own business. It's called Finding Your Inner Champion. I am a life coach and a motivational speaker. And I am a medium. I know most people, after all of that story, would think that I'm not a medium, that I couldn't ever tell the future or see the past or anything else. But guess what, everybody? There it is.
And see, okay, so this one we didn't get to touch on at all, and I was super curious about this. So motivational speaker, life coach, but when you told me medium, so one of the biggest things that I want to do on this show is introduce people to ideas and concepts that either they've never heard of or that they've heard of and just kind of accepted an opinion of. To me, medium, like I'm just going to tell you on it, like to me, medium, I picture the person on the show, on the TV with the crystal ball, and then they're all holding hands in a circle, and they're going, I'm hearing a voice, you know, it's like, to me, it sounds kind of weird, and that's just what I believe. So from someone who is a medium and has experience doing it and is doing this professionally, can you please kind of explain what this is from your perspective, and what does it entail? What are the types of things you're doing through it, or who are you helping through it?
My blessing as a medium is that I can see people for whom they truly are. I can see you at a soul level. And so I think that I see beyond the human body that we have chosen to encompass our souls. And I can see to the deeper part of who you are. I can look into someone's eyes and I know their pain, I know their happiness, because I can feel it. I can feel it right along with them, as if I were living it myself. And I think that my journey in life has helped me accept this part of myself better. I have the pleasure of, yes, I do speak to spirits that have passed on. And I love that part of what I do. I enjoy that a lot. But my most important part of being a medium is healing or helping another human being that is currently here on this planet heal themselves before they cross over. Because I think that if we can get the healing done here, the happiness ratio is beyond imagination.
Wow.
And so having that ability to help you heal yourself through my knowledge of who you really are is a win-win for everybody.
That's amazing. And I was just going to say, I apologize because there's a frequent guest on my show. Her name is Donna, and she may sound a lot like a train horn. And she was just saying hello. She was saying, hi, Cindy. So I decided several episodes ago that I live right next to the train tracks. And so pretty much inevitably on every interview, Donna's going to come by and say hi at least once. So, I decided to make her a character, and she's very very friendly. She is loud. She is loud, but she just wants to say hi. She wants to say, if you are interested, you need to go find out about Cindy the Champ and get some coaching at Finding Your Inner Champion. I think that's what she said. I couldn't quite make it all out, but
so I think that's what I heard.
Yeah, yeah. So she's a relentless promoter. She is, but so this is really interesting, and I think honestly something that's going to make certain people uncomfortable. You know, it's like, okay, talking to people who have passed over, and so when you're talking about, because, you know, for me, I think there's so much in life we don't understand, and so much that we think we know because we've been told it or we've been taught it. And that's what I heard my whole life, so that's what's true. So I've been very fortunate and I've also worked very hard for it, but in my current job, I travel globally, and in 6 months, I've been to 6 different countries. You know, I get to meet people in all different places, and you know from traveling, there's so much benefit. So to the people listening, travel. For the love of God, do it. Stop thinking about it. Stop saying later. Just set the trip, set a time. I guarantee you will get so much from it. But the point that I was coming at from there was so much I thought I knew about the world, about people, about the way things function, and then you get out there and you see it. I actually just got back from San Pedro Sula, Honduras, the most dangerous city in the world. It has the highest murder rate, it has drug cartels, it's got the whole shebang. So if you Google it, you'll see some scary stuff. What I found was fantastic people. You know, yes, we had to be careful, yes, we had to do things a certain way to protect ourselves, but I met great people, I had a fantastic experience. And so if you listen to what you see on the news, which I'm just going to say right now, 99% is bullshit and sensationalism, but if you listen to that and you read the news headlines, you're going to think the world is crumbling, everyone hates each other, and everyone wants to kill each other. The reality I've found from visiting a lot of these places, I've been to Asia, Europe, I've been to Central America, I've been to a lot of different places. In most places, and this was something Tim Ferriss said in one of his articles, was that most places people are good people just trying to live life and find happiness. And they're trying to give their kids a better life. So to all of these things we've been talking about, travel is such an integral point, but the reality is, the whole reason I brought this up was some people are going, well, that's not true, that's not real, that can't be. If you've just taken the time to get to know people, you may have had your perception shattered. So don't instantly assume or instantly negate. Be open to new experiences, new ideas. Doesn't mean you have to agree after, but listen, take it in, and sometimes that's all you need to do. You don't need to tell a person, no, you're wrong, it's different. Sometimes just take it in, and you'll be amazed how much you'll learn coming from a guy who talks all the time. The times where I've slowed down and asked questions and pulled back, the experience you have is just so incredible. And so, to Cindy's point, it's like, is it something that I believe in or know about or anything? It's like, I don't know, but I'm going to listen to Cindy's story. So, and already my perception of it is changing by being open to hear that story. So, now to continue on the medium topic, because I am really curious about it. So when you say you can see down to someone's soul, that you can see the core of who they are, how does that help you in your coaching, and how does that help you to see forward and backward in the timeline of life?
Oh, that one's a little bit interesting to answer because everyone is different. We've all had multiple lives. This isn't the only life we've ever lived. This isn't the only time we've ever existed. And so to be able to look into your soul, like I'm looking at a picture of you right now, and I see your eyes, and that's normal. I mean, when they say the eyes are the window to the soul, that is the most honest statement ever created by man, because the eyes allow us to see into each other's souls, and all we have to do is honestly look at each other, and we know one another. Whether we know each other from a million lifetimes or we know each other just because we met today, we know each other. We know our souls are all created from the same energy. That's what we are. We are energy. And so we know each other. And so the things that we choose to judge each other by, when I look into someone's eyes, that's all gone. Skin color disappears. Lifestyles completely melt away. There is nothing but the energy that is you. And I find that a huge blessing to me. And I wish that the whole world would come to just that realization, that if we stopped looking at each other for the people that I think you're supposed to be, and I look in your eyes and realize that you are my brother, or you are my sister, or you are just a part of energy that I know and love, and am part of you, and you are a part of me, all that negativity just drops away. And so I can look at your soul just by seeing a picture of your eyes. I can look at who you are, and I can see that you are a wonderful, helping. I mean, your soul was created to be a helping soul. You are a teacher of souls. And you've been that in all of your lifetimes, and you will continue to be that in all of your lifetimes, because that's what your soul was created to do. And so it doesn't matter what skin color you have, or what hair color you have, or what ethnicity you are, because you are living your true purpose. And that's what brings you your happiness. And to be able to see that in every soul I meet is awe-inspiring. I can help people find themselves, and I don't tell them what their purpose is. I mean, I'm only telling you because you already know. You got this one figured out, Brian. But for those that are struggling with who am I really, and what am I supposed to do, I can help you look inside yourself to find that. I'm never going to tell you everything I see, because that defeats the purpose of you growing and learning.
Right.
So as me using my gift or my skill, I'm never ever going to use it to make the decision for you. Mm-hmm. I will do the, I guide. I ask a lot of questions to help you get to the right answer, but I'm never going to hand you the answer. Just because your journey here on this planet is for you to grow and find out your path. Yes. Even though I can see it, doesn't mean that I'm supposed to tell it to you. That makes it way too easy.
My dad.
And I figure, hey, I've had to work for mine.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, you've had to work to get
I'll help
there.
you work for yours, but I'm not going to give it to you.
My dad told me this quote to that point that I really loved. He said, and it was one, I always try to credit the people who say quotes when I know them, but this was one he saw on Facebook and he told me. And so I don't know the author, but he said, "The best teachers tell you where to look, but not what to see." And so to me, that's what this really sounds like. And this is fascinating for me, Cindy, because to me, what you've done, just in this short explanation of what you do, is you took something that's scary. And how often is it that what we don't like or what we're afraid of is just because we don't know anything about it? Whether it's a different type of people, whether it's an idea, whether it's a concept, it could be anything. It's just because we're afraid because we don't know it. Now, in this case, you've taken it and you've kind of broken it down a little bit. I'm like, that doesn't sound so scary. That doesn't sound so weird. It's like, it's, to me, especially when you said about looking in someone's eyes. Because one of the things I talk about a lot on this podcast, and something that I've experienced a lot for myself, is when you are willing to slow down and be in the moment and put technology down for 5 seconds, because we always have to have our phones, and that's been another thing about this week. I've been married to my phone, and I'm like, I can't be doing this. When you're willing to put the phone down, look up from your computer, make eye contact with a person, and genuinely listen to what they're saying, not listen with your response prepared, all of a sudden you're going to have a window into their soul, into their personality, into what's going on. And I found this has been, a lot of people go, oh, well, that's really woo-woo, new age nonsense. I found this to be most effective at work, working in 2 Fortune 500 companies. All of a sudden, people are used to being treated in a certain way, squeezed into a box, or told that they need to function. You need to be this person to succeed in corporate America. I found that's all bullshit. I found the more you are genuinely you, the more you embrace your gifts and your passion and your dreams and your gifts. I think I said that twice, but it's that important. The more you embrace those things, all of a sudden people see you for you, they love you for you, and they love that you love yourself. So when you can take those moments to be present with a person, look them in the eye, and be there with them. And guys, it's not just about work. I mean, it is so much more about your family, about your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, even a stranger you meet. It is becoming so rare to have that level of connection with a person, especially due to technology. When you are the person who does that, you will stand out leaps and bounds above anybody else just by doing that one simple thing. So if you can pull that one thing from what Cindy has been telling you, you will connect with people, and you don't need to be a medium to have these deep connections. That is Cindy's gift. You have your own gifts, but use eye contact and letting go of your other thoughts and your needs and your wants. Be there for a person and just be there with that person for a moment, because you'll be amazed at what will change and the things that you'll observe that you've never seen before.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And so Cindy, I'm so glad we redid this. This has been so much fun. I've learned so much more about you, and your story is even more amazing than I already knew. So I always like to, I'm curious about other things about the medium, but you know what? We'll wrap it up here. We'll wrap it up because we're coming up on an hour and a half, and I love it. I know the people are gonna love it, but we could talk for 3-4 hours and have no problem. So I got to eat at some point. And I just got back from the gym. I didn't even shower. So I'm all smelly. Great thing about the podcast medium is no one has to know any of that unless I tell them. So I always like to close out the podcast episodes with a question, and that is, if you could go back in time, and then, you know what, you might answer this question a little bit differently based off the journey that you've come across, but if you could go back in time and talk to yourself at graduation, or maybe at any of these kind of pivotal moments in your young adult life, what would you have told yourself? And actually, before you answer, Donna has come back. Hi, Donna. Hey, good to see you. What's that? You think Cindy's story is fantastic? Me too. That's great. All right, see you later. Yeah, bye. See, she's a character. And the best is when they come through at 3-4 in the morning. So now back to our deep question, because Donna just had to say hi. She's very sociable. God bless her. So what would you say to yourself, or what would be the advice that you would give to yourself if you could go back and talk to your younger self?
I think the main thing I would tell myself is to hang on. The ride is so frickin' worth it. There's this roller coaster ride we call life is, there are some twists and some turns, but it is so frickin' awesome if you hang on and take every turn for what it has to give you. Because there is a lesson in every turn. There is something awesome to get. So hang on and go for it, baby girl, because this is going to be one really awesome trip. And it's all worth it in the end. It's all worth it.
Wow. I love that. And normally that's where I wrap up, but the last thing I'll say, what is the number one thing you're most proud of from each of your kids right now? Because I know you love to brag, so...
Oh my gosh.
You get to pick one for each. That's it.
Oh God. Okay, I guess for my daughter Brianna, her strong independence. Yeah, I think that's got to be her. And my son, I think it's got to be his absolute wonderful, wonderful, sensitive heart. If I have to limit them.
See, I knew if I didn't limit, we'd be having just a why they're so awesome fest. So, but
yeah, we could. You want to go for it? I could go for it in a heartbeat.
I could do it after the call. But you know, I wanted to do that because we talked about gratitude, and my challenge to you is to go tell them. I'm sure you do every day, but to go tell them after this call what are the things that you admire about them the most. As I said earlier, gratitude is one of the fastest ways to boost happiness, and you have to, it's great to say it, it's great to think it, sharing it with people brings new energy into it. So Cindy, I am grateful for you, for your story, for the strength and the happiness that you find in telling a story that most people would think is just so difficult. And I appreciate you so much because you taught me that through telling my story about the struggles of the emotions that I dealt with through losing my mom, that I'm able to help people like you who have kids with cancer, or who have kids and are dealing with cancer, because you finally heard the perspective from someone who was dealing with it, and you heard that I was trying to be strong, she was trying to be strong, and you realized, oh my God, my kids are trying to do that too. So I value you so much. I am so glad I got to meet you, and I know we'll be meeting up sometime soon because I'm traveling all over, so we got to. But
there you go.
I want to thank
April in San Diego.
That sounds pretty good.
It's a Te Amo music event.
Ah, I see how you're weaving that together. And guys,
Te Amo, you like that?
You can go see Te Amo's interview just a couple episodes back. So
yeah.
But Cindy, thank you so much for being on the show, and you got to hang out after because we're going to talk a bit. But thank you so much. This has been fantastic. And and last thing, where can people go to learn more about you and your business?
Findchamp.com is my web address. I am on Facebook under Finding Your Inner Champion. Or you can give me a phone call, 520-827-9425.
There you go, guys. As always, the information will be posted on the Overcoming Graduation blog. Any of the links from the show will be on the blog as well. And thank you again for listening. Cindy, that's been awesome. Thanks, and have a great rest of your night.
Brian, thank you so much.
All right, have a good one.